Next up, it's been more than 8 months since 41-year-old Juston Root was shot and killed by police after what started with a confrontation at Brigham and Women's Hospital, continued through a car chase into Brookline, and ended with Root being killed, shot 26 times by police in all. And today his family still has a lot of questions about how and why he had to die. Root was diagnosed with bipolar and schizophrenic disorders at the age of 19. And according to his family, he was meeting with a therapist on the morning of February 7th for an unscheduled visit due to a mental health crisis at Mass Mental Health, where he regularly received treatment and is located next to the Brigham. According to investigators' documents obtained by the Boston Globe, police officers were called to that area due to a report of a man with a gun. And when an officer approached Root, both drew weapons, the officer a gun, and Root what officers say they thought was a pistol, but later discovered was a plastic paintball gun. The officer shot at Mr. Root, stumbled and fell, and when another officer across the street saw, he ordered Root to drop his weapon. When Mr. Root ran, the officer shot at him, wounding Root before he was able to get into his car and drive away. Someone reported shots fired over the police radio, and at one point, an unidentified person on the transmission claimed, quote, "I think he just shot a cop." In fact, the only person who was wounded when those first shots were fired was a parking valet who'd been accidentally shot not by Root, but by a police officer. But no one knew that at the time. Several police then chased Root at low speed in his car until one officer rammed into his driver's side, a move that goes against Boston police policy. Root sped up, going as fast as 90 miles per hour until he crashed outside a shopping plaza. Root stumbled out of his car and collapsed. A former EMT who happened to see him rushed to help. But when officers arrived, the EMT said they ordered her to get away. One officer later admitted to kicking Root to the ground. Several yelled at him to get and stay on the ground. And then 5 Boston police officers and 1 state trooper fired 31 shots, killing him. The following month, the Norfolk DA's office declared the use of force by the 6 officers was, quote, reasonable and justified, saying in part that more than one officer had yelled gun before they fired. But Root's family is not convinced. They've since filed a federal lawsuit against the police officers and the city of Boston and are calling for a new independent investigation. I'm joined now by Juston Root's sister, Jennifer Root Bannon, and their father, Evan Root. We also invited someone from the Boston Police Department, but a spokesman told us they're not able to comment due to ongoing litigation. And we invited a representative from the Norfolk DA's office who referred us to their previously released statements. Evan and Jennifer, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Jim, thank you for having us.
Jennifer, what are you claiming in your suit against Boston and the cops?
They violated Juston's 4th and 14th Amendment rights and also the excessive force. I mean, it was just pure chaos. This never needed to happen. A lot of people, there were so many people involved that they didn't even know what was going on.
I want to talk specifically about the Norfolk County DA. You've asked him to reopen his investigation. He has refused. Is that correct, Jennifer?
He declined. He said, unless we have some new information, and obviously we're asking him to look at what the former EMT saw, to acknowledge that, but he didn't.
Well, you know, it's actually, I have a few questions about what he concluded, if I may, and then Evan, I'll talk to you in a minute. In his 7-page report in March, as I said, DA Morrissey said the use of force was reasonable and justified. In his report, Jennifer, he said more than one officer yelled gun before the 31 shots were fired. What has his response been to the fact that only one of the 6 officers even claims to have yelled gun, and the audio tape from the body camera shows nobody yelling the word gun? Has the DA responded to that new fact?
He has not responded to that, and the fact that he didn't even know it is even more appalling to me.
Well, my second question is about the EMT that you mentioned, if I may. The EMT by his side, in interviews, she described the dire condition your brother was in. I wrote it down, complete state of shock, thought he was having a heart attack. By my read, none of that is in the district attorney's report either. Has he explained why?
He has not explained why, and I would like to know.
Well, then there's a third thing. It appears, correct me if I'm wrong with any of this, please, Jennifer, one of the 6 officers had a body camera on one, though 2 others were assigned to have them that day. One didn't turn it on, apparently, and one just didn't have it. Have you gotten any responses from either the Norfolk DA or the City of Boston as to why they were violating that policy?
No, nothing.
Evan, if I can bring you into this, in addition to requesting your family, requesting the Norfolk DA take another look at this, the family's lawyers sent a letter to the mayor of Boston, to the Attorney General, Maura Healey, and to the governor of Massachusetts. What kinds of things were you asking them? Just to open an independent investigation themselves?
Exactly. I mean, how can the police investigating themselves, or even the DA who knows everybody there and he's dealing with people he's dealt with many years, how can you get a fair shake there?
And my understanding, Evan, is that you sent that letter, I believe, was in late September. It's now mid-October. What have you heard from the Attorney General or the mayor or the governor?
Well, I refer to Jennifer on that because I just got back from a trip. I was out of town. Have we heard anything, Jen, on that?
Jennifer, have you heard anything?
We've heard absolutely nothing.
You know, I don't quite understand that. I understand. I'm not embracing or endorsing the fact that the Norfolk DA is not willing to relook at his own investigation, even if you've got a compelling case you believe that he should. What reason might there be, particularly in this environment, in this time, where there's so much focus on the conduct of police, for neither the Attorney General nor the governor to respond, Jennifer?
Well, I would just say we need an independent investigation and we need independent fact-finding. And that's really what's the key here. And it needs to be people who are not associated with the police department. We can't have transparency.
But why are the governor and the Attorney General not willing to not only not do it, but why, in your estimation, are they not willing to even speak to you about it, apparently, if that's what the case is?
I mean, that's the question I have for them. I mean, I would hope that they would talk with us. And I've tried, and so far nothing. So now I have a petition going to eventually show up at Maura Healey's office to show her the support that we have.
You know, Evan, one of the saddest parts about losing someone you love in a circumstance like this, and I've had many discussions with people like you and your daughter, is the only thing we know about your son is how he died. And we don't know about what kind of person he was, what kind of life he led. Can you spend a minute and tell us about Juston, please?
Oh, well, sure. And that I'm right on there with you, Jim, on that. It's very painful because so many facts were wrong at the beginning, even. So he was painted, even when the police came to the door, they said he shot a man and he was brandishing a gun that he wouldn't drop, and therefore the police shot him at Chestnut Hill. All wrong, all in the papers, all over town. It didn't happen that way. He was someone with mental illness. He had some paranoia from some being taken down and various, resisting going into a hospital and that type of thing. Mm-hmm. Which he had a tough life in that way, but he also had a very delicate soul underneath that, and his friends just loved him. He had many, many friends. He tried to help people on the street. In fact, we thought he was probably trying to help something out down there at the time. So he was a creative lad who it was a joy to be with. I mean, today I had an appointment down at the hospital at Brigham and Women's, and I just, on the road driving by exactly where he was shot, walking up the street where they initially started shooting at him. I mean, just to think that lovely person died so unnecessarily is absolutely heartrending to myself and to anybody who knew him.
Jennifer, as a result of your brother's death, you've become an activist, to say the least, not just in the cause of justice for your brother, but in the cause of justice for others. Quickly, if you can, I only have a minute or so left. I know you were involved in testimony around the Boston Police Task Force. The recommendations have been endorsed in total by the mayor. Are you happy with what the mayor has endorsed there?
I think we're taking a step in the right direction. I do think we're in a really unique time in history where we can actually get somewhere. I do think there's going to be roadblocks, and so I want to join the team and make sure that this really goes through.
Well, on Beacon Hill, we're getting nowhere fast. Is qualified immunity the end of qualified immunity, so officers are not essentially insulated from litigation, even if their conduct is particularly egregious? Is that on your list of priorities? And I only have a few seconds left.
I would like to see qualified immunity changed. I'm not sure if I'm one way or the other, if I want it fully gone, but I know it needs to be changed because it's a free ticket to kill right now.
Jennifer and Evan, I wish you luck. I wish you at minimum that you'll get answers. And Evan, I appreciate your sharing a description of your son because it's new to a lot of us. We really appreciate it. Good luck to both of you. JustonRoot.com, as you see, if you want more information. Thank you both for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.